Got very good arms.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today it's another coronavirus update in respects to the comic book industry. And we've had a lot of interesting news. We have an update as far as Marvel Comics layoffs with their editorial staff that I'm going to talk about. After that, I'm going to read an article about Donnie Cates and his reaction to Marvel Comics shutting down new comic distribution as well as digital, and my thoughts on him moving forward with Marvel Comics. Then I'm going to give an update on Diamond Comics distributors and what they're doing right now and moving forward. And it's actually pretty good news. So the first article is from CBR.com's Collier Jennings. Marvel Comics halves its staff due to COVID-19. As the comic book industry continues to weather the COVID-19 pandemic, one major comic book publisher has chosen to slash its workplace in half. Marvel Comics, according to The Guardian, has chosen to furlough nearly half of its editorial staff. A spokesman for the publisher said that Marvel would not confirm the numbers at the time. Marvel will continue to provide health insurance for the furloughed employees during the length of the pandemic. Several creators also gave their thoughts on the current situation and what they see for the future of comics. Amazing Spider-Man writer Jerry Conway said, "The fact that these movies and video games and TV shows have appeal shows that these stories have potential, and we haven't been accessing it because we've had this safe zone. If this goes on for the amount of time that we think it will go on, a lot of these stores will not be coming back." Marvel, alongside other companies, has seen its flow of titles halted by the shuttering of Diamond Distributors, which handles the distribution of nearly every comic book publisher. Marvel offered deep discounts on certain titles to publishers through April 8th, and several Marvel creators have participated in the hashtag Creators for Comics and hashtag Canucks for Comics initiatives. So that's the update as far as Marvel Comics. They have laid off half of their editorial staff. And this is actually a pretty bad sign because we've seen lots of things happening over at DC Comics. You know, they've got their new DC Daily initiative. It sounds like Scott Snyder's actually beefed up his Dark Knight's Death Metal event. There's going to be some anthology stories going along with that now. And it sounds like it actually got bigger somehow in the meantime as they're shaping a new way ahead. But we have seen a lot of Marvel creators use the hashtag pencils down, stating that they have been told to halt work. And now that we're seeing their editorial staff, at least half of them have been sent home and are no longer working right now. It really makes you think that maybe Marvel are taking a pause, but they don't really know what to do right now. Or if they do have a plan, they're not really, it's not taking advantage of the situation and maybe creating a big load of comics for to really hit the market and show that Marvel Comics is there and that they're going to lead the industry moving forward. It feels like they're being very slow to react. Unlike DC Comics, they're not really taking this thing by the horns, so to speak. And it doesn't really look good for them. You would expect that Marvel would like to have a big slate of comics to come out, but I do think they're probably working, on Spider-Man, Avengers, their bigger books, Immortal Hulk, obviously their Dawn of X titles. They're probably loading up on those. And, Marvel does have a habit of bi-weekly and even weekly shipping and sometimes. So maybe their plan is when they come back online is to ship a lot of the really big titles that are going to generate a lot of interest. So maybe they're creating a lot of a backlog of those comics so they can really hit the market hard with those. But cutting off half your editorial staff, having a lot of your creators do pencils down, not being working at this time doesn't sound good for Marvel Comics moving forward. And the next article I'm going to talk about kind of deals with this, and this is from Donnie Cates, and it doesn't really line up with everything we're hearing here from Marvel Comics. And this one's from Newsarama editor Chris Arant. Donnie Cates defends Marvel's decision to halt comics during Diamond shutdown. Marvel exclusive writer Donnie Cates is stepping up to defend Marvel's decision to halt the release of new comics in print or digital during Diamond Comics distributors' now 5-week-long stoppage. In response to fans on Newsarama's Twitter feed, the comic shop retailer turned writer argues that releasing new comics digitally would hurt shops and fans. This is what Donnie had to say in a tweet. "It's complicated, but in a nutshell, if we put comics out digitally, it hurts comic shops even more, which in turn hurts you guys. Believe me, no one wants to sell Marvel comics more than Marvel, and we're doing our best. There's a lot behind the scenes about this that you guys don't know about, but I promise this is the right move for right now. I know it sucks for the moment, but that's just it, a moment, and it will pass, I promise. In the meantime, go buy some comics that are new to you. Marvel Comics, for their part, have not publicly declared a position on the controversial topic of publishing digital comics during the coronavirus shutdown. Kate said that creators he knows are using this downtime to get ahead on work. And he said, we're actually getting ahead to get caught up on some schedule and start new creator-owned stuff. Most creators I know are extremely busy. In addition to his Marvel work on Venom and Thor, Kate has 2 creator-owned series, Baby Teeth and Redneck, as well as 3 additional titles in development. So him saying that most of the creators he knows are extremely busy, that doesn't really jive up with what we're seeing on social media with a lot of Marvel creators going pencils down and a lot of independent creators going pencils down. But I do believe that some of these creators are taking this opportunity, this work stoppage on maybe their Marvel titles or an Image title or, whoever they work with, because I have talked to some independent creators who are still working through this. I believe we're going to talk to one of them tomorrow who works for IDW. But it sounds like a lot of them are trying to take advantage of this and maybe work on that creator-owned project that they've been planning on, but they just haven't had the time for it for a long time. And I think that's really smart because I think creators probably shouldn't be so reliant on the big 2 moving forward. Just having a job at Marvel or DC, isn't as stable, obviously, as maybe we all thought, especially at Marvel. They have decided to halt a distribution period. They're not even putting any new comics out on digital, unlike DC, which has been putting out comics daily for almost a week now. And before that, they even were putting out a limited number of new comics digitally on Wednesdays, to fill the void that we've been having. What is interesting is it does appear, if you read the words and you see Donnie Cates, the presence that he has, it appears that he's taking more of a leadership position that, in these trying times, people are going to have to step up, and maybe Donnie Cates is the guy at Marvel that's behind the scene is kind of taking charge and is having a bigger presence, as far as creative directions and things like that from Marvel Comics. I find that interesting because he hasn't really had that big crossover mega event where he worked with some other superstar creators and really that really hit the market really well. The only one I can think of was that Marvel Knights 25th anniversary story. I think it was 5 or 6 episodes or issues, and to be quite frankly, it sucked. You got the impression that maybe Donnie Cates outlined the story, and they brought in a bunch of creators like Vita Ayala. I believe Rosenberg was on that one, Kelly Thompson, and it was completely forgettable. It was a boring story. I think I dropped it after 2 or 3 issues, and I'm glad I did because everyone I talked to that finished it said it sucked. So maybe Donnie Cates really isn't like a leader. Whereas you look at Scott Snyder, who looks to be taking a leadership role over at DC, he has, Dark Knight's Metal, which is a huge mega event that was extremely popular. And if you look at the output of people that were associated with the event outside of Scott Snyder, like your Robert Venditti on his Green Lantern Dawnbreaker, or I believe it was Josh Williamson, who did the Flash, the Red Death story. Those, in my opinion, were even better than Dark Knight's Metal. I thought, as far as that. So, that Scott Snyder had creative input on those series, and they were really good. Whereas you see what the collaboration that Donnie Cates has had maybe over at Marvel kind of was lacking and quite frankly, sucked. So I think it's interesting that they've chosen him to maybe be more of a bigger voice or maybe more of a leadership persona behind the scenes in these times as Marvel looks to attack the market coming out of this pandemic that we're all dealing with, that has shut comic books down and shuttered comic book shops, and we don't have any new digital, we don't have any new comics from Marvel. At least DC has a plan. Hopefully we hear something from Marvel soon, and I would imagine Donnie Cates will be a part of that as well. It'll be interesting. Like I said, it doesn't really match up with what we're hearing directly as far as Marvel is laying people off. But I do think a lot of them are working probably on creator-owned projects, and that's more along what he's talking about rather than them actually working on a lot of Marvel projects. So I don't think they're doing a lot of stuff outside of the really big titles right now. So the third article that I'm going to cover is also from Newsarama, from their editor-in-chief, Michael Doran. Diamond taking DC orders in anticipation of resuming comic book distribution in May updated. So this is good news. Diamond comic book distributors have begun taking orders for DC products again in anticipation of the resumption of distribution in mid to late May. But according to Diamond, there is still no firm date when actual distribution will resume. And this is from a Diamond spokesperson. We continue to work toward a mid to late May resumption of weekly comic distribution, but numerous factors will affect the actual date we're able to deliver our first weekly shipment. Placeholder dates are an approximation of when we hope to resume weekly operations, but are not yet firm. DC Comics needed final order numbers for books being printed next week. That is independent from our shipment date. The email came in response to comic book retailer Ryan Higgins, owner of Comic Conspiracy in Sunnyvale, California, who tweeted earlier Saturday evening that a new Diamond comic distributor's ordering page is online that allows their retail accounts to order DC titles due to be shipped by Diamond on Wednesday, May 20th. Newsarama reported Higgins' tweet Saturday evening in an earlier version of the story before Diamond clarified the May 20 date is not firm and is considered a placeholder. Diamond previously announced they anticipated reestablishing distribution in mid to late May after suspending operations at the beginning of the month due to coronavirus. According to Higgins, the titles available in the system for final order cutoff of Monday are the same titles the publisher has announced will be available through the new regional distributors, Lunar and UCS, on the digital platforms on Tuesday, beginning April 28th. So we've kind of already covered all that. So it looks like Diamond is still a DC distributor. They will be a DC nationwide and international distributor when they come back online. If they do come back up on 20 May, they will be offering up the DC titles that have been shipped out by Lunar and UCS, the new distributors that are in the market now that kind of DC kind of went behind the scenes with Jim Lee and got new competition because, Diamond Comics halted and they needed to get new comic books out. So retailers that do not want to sign up with Lunar or they do not want to sign up with UCS will be able to get those comics in physical from Diamond Comics when they get up online. Of course, there are no guarantees for that 20 May date, like they said in the article. This is all projection based on the words that we're seeing and the information that we're getting. I think they're being very hopeful. I'm very hopeful. It looks like the country, as far as America, is starting to open back up. Maybe not in New York. But certainly some of the Midwestern states, some of the southern states are starting to open up for business, hopefully starting up at the beginning of May. And hopefully some of those warehouses for Diamond will also open up as well. And they'll start being able to distribute comic books. Of course, we know that they have 3 to 4 weeks of new comics that were printed but never delivered to comic shops when they halted distribution on 1 April. So they do have a lot of comics that have already been ordered that will get up to shops. And then now it looks like they are ready to take in new orders, new printings to be delivered, from DC Comics. I imagine Marvel, Image, and some of the larger publishers will be in there. There is some word out there that maybe some of the smaller publishers won't be a part of that moving forward, but hopefully, they kind of all get in the system as well eventually. So that'll basically wrap up today's coronavirus update on Thinking Critical. YouTube, Marvel Comics laid off half of their editorial staff. Not a great sign. Marvel Comics exclusive writer Donnie Cates came back. He defended Marvel's decision not to release comics in digital or physical during coronavirus. It looks like he might be playing a bigger role as far as leadership at Marvel moving forward. I find that an interesting choice. Not quite as good as DC's choice of Scott Snyder, but we'll see how he does moving forward. It looks like Diamond is preparing to start trying to start distributing comics starting 20 May. Of course, nothing on that is finalized. They're all just projecting that it's all going to work out. Hopefully it does, and people will start getting new comics when that happens. Thank you very much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.